DigNet every fourth Monday at 7 p.m., W5FC. W5FC.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot.
Clay, this is Chaz, KF5JHA.
ARRLNTS Net Motley at 6:30 p.m. W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is KF5PDS. My name is Billye, and I'll be your net controller for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break in your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. The Saginaw Haslett Amateur Radio Club repeater W5BYP also carries Skynet via All-Star Link. This repeater serves Fort Worth, Northwest Tarrant and Parker counties on 145.300 megahertz with a PL to 110.9 with a native offset. Feel free to check in on either of these repeaters tonight. It also stays linked through Afterglow as well until 12 midnight. Tonight's topics, astronomy, charts, pictures, and live audio video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to club website w5fc.org, look for tonight's Skynet announcement, and click on the hot link to check in. We'll acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we'll continue to do that too over air and on Echolink. All amateur radio operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion of the evening, Was Up, space exploration and space history, Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We currently have the following people checked in via w5fc.org. We have KI5SDS, Deaf in Richardson, over air radio. KF5JHH, Chaz, Planet Earth, multiple modes. KG5KUF, Rick in Fort Worth on the Saginaw Hazlitt repeater. Oh, he says we're having node issues. We can hear you, but you can't hear us. That's okay. You need to communicate with us. Feel free to jump in. We're on Echolink, and I can see the chat, or if someone else can relay. But if you're hearing us, it's great. I'm sorry to hear you're having node issues. Let's see. NT5TM, Tony, East Dallas, over air radio. AI5OL, Dan in Southwest Fort Worth, over air radio. Alpha Golf 9 Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas, over air radio. AA5AH, Robert in Richardson, over air radio. N5BB, Bill in Irving, over air radio. KN5EEE, Al in Allen, over air radio. KE5ICX, Tom in Corpus Christi on the All-Star link. And K5KVJ, Keith in Crowley, over air radio. Wow, that's a really healthy check-in over there. I'm glad to see people are using the electronic check-in sheet. Now let's start with voice check-ins, starting with short time check-ins. If you happen to be short time, please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from this evening.
Kilo 9 Alpha Hotel Oscar, Brian in Terrell.
November 5, Golf Mike Juliet, Hazel, Texas.
We grab those. We've got K9AHO. I see you over there at Echolink as well, Brian Terrell. And number 5, Golf Mike Juliet. I didn't catch your name, but you're Hazel. Would you like to give your name this evening?
Absolutely. The name here is Chris, Charlie Hotel Romeo, India Sierra, over.
Copy that, Chris. Thanks for checking in. Do we have any other short time check-ins? If so, please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Juliet 5, Quebec, Echo Quebec, Fort Worth, Texas.
Copy that. Kilo Juliet 5, Quebec, Echo Quebec, in Fort Worth. Could I get your name, sir?
Anthony.
That, Evan. Welcome to Skynet. All right, let's go ahead and move over to general check-ins. So same request for general check-ins. If you're on air, please come out with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from.
This is Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch. This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay, Whiskey.
Jacob, also Farmers Branch.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, for Northeast Dallas.
Alpha Charlie 5, Victor Charlie, Cecil, and North Mesquite.
This is Kilo 5, Whiskey, Victor Lima, James in North Carrollton.
This is November 5, Tango X-Ray, November, James, Mobile in Dallas.
Okay, let's pause there for a moment. That was a really healthy round of check-ins. And some folks were kind of stepping on each other, so I'll get fills where I need them. Let's see, KF5ZBL, Bill in Farmers Branch, N5 Oscar Foxtrot, Clay in Mesquite, Jacob in Farmers Branch. I missed your call sign. I'll come back and catch that. NV5F, Virginia in Fort Worth, W5GUF, Gus, Barfar, Northeast Dallas, AC5VC, Cecil in North Mesquite, James in North Carrollton. I need to get Phil on your call sign, and N5TXN, James, Dallas Mobile. So let me go back to Jacob in Farmers Branch. If you could come back with your call sign, please.
Sure thing. This is Kilo, Golf, 5, Uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo, Jacob in Farmers Branch.
Okay, I copy that. Kilo, Golf 5, Uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo, Jacob, Farmers Branch. Thank you. And James, North Carrollton. I caught the last part, Whiskey, Victor, Lima, but I did not catch after Kilo, so I'm just missing a little bit. If you could just repeat your call sign so I can get those fills, that would be great.
Roger on that. Kilo, Golf 5, Whiskey, Victor Lima.
Copy that. Kilo, Golf 5, Whiskey, Victor, Lima, James, in North Carrollton. All right. Do we have any other general check-ins for this evening's net? If so, please come now with your call sign name where you're transmitting from.
Whiskey Alpha 5, Juliet Romeo X-Ray, Jesse, Mobile in Saginaw, Texas.
Copy that. Whiskey Alpha 5, Juliet Romeo X-Ray, Jesse, and Saginaw Mobile. Do we have any more general check-ins? I'm not hearing any, but now we'll move on to Echolink, but I see everyone that's on Echolink has also checked in, so we're good there. So I'll do an open round check-in. Anyone who'd like to check in can do so now on any mode. So any mode, come with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo 6, Echo Oscar Lima, Matthew in Fort Worth.
Kilo 6, Echo Oscar Lima, Matthew in Fort Worth. Great to hear you. Thanks for checking in. Do we have any other open round check-ins? If so, please come out with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo India 5, Juliet Charlie Mike, Thomas in Grapevine.
Kilo India 5, Juliet Charlie Mike, Thomas in Grapevine. Got you. All right, one last call for open round check-ins. We will be doing check-in rounds periodically through the net, but I just want to see if we can catch any more before we get started. All right, not hearing any, so I'll put out a call to our short time stations, those that checked in short time. Do you have any questions or anything to bring to the net? Just wanted to check in with you guys before you have to dash off. So if you have something, a question or anything you want to bring to the net, please do so now. Okay, not hearing anything, so we'll go ahead and get started with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If you have an announcement, please come now with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
NT5TM, Tony, good evening. What announcements do you have for us?
Good evening, Billy. I'm really looking forward to the rest of Skynet. Before we get into the fun parts, I have a few announcements to share. We currently have 3 lecture and lab POTA Performer 6 through 20 meter portable vertical antenna kits left. Yeah, that was a mouthful. We've got 3 of them. It's a 6 through 20 meter antenna, and if you'd like to learn more about it, you can look at W5FC.org or search for the term POTA, P-O-T-A, Performer. You can build either the long $60 or short $75 version. They're both the same antenna. It's just the short version uses some $15 pipe fittings to break down the 4-foot-long part of the antenna into 2 roughly 2-foot pieces. For those of you who built the antenna earlier today and might have missed the announcement on TechNet, I have also found a solution to the trimmer string problem. Yes, we used nylon trimmer string in the build of this antenna. We found that 0.065-inch string worked much better, so free string will be made available to anyone who needs it. For more information, see W5FC.org or contact me, NT5TM, at, you guessed it, W5FC.org. The Afterglow movie discussion tonight at about 10:30 or 10:35 will focus on the movie Robinson Crusoe from 1954. I didn't have much time to start it between these nets, but it didn't look bad at all. I'm looking forward to hearing the discussion, even if I have to finish the movie tomorrow. It's been a busy Saturday for me. We do have a GeekNet coming up this Monday right here at 7. Anything you like to geek out about is welcome. If you want to talk about your antennas, that's great. I love antennas. If you want to talk about the different birds that visit your backyard feeders, ooh, that's even better. Whatever you like, and I especially welcome geeky news and news of the weird, as well as just whatever tool or website you've discovered this month that seems especially neat. Join us this Monday at 7. We also have a surprise net coming up on Monday, August 31st. I'm always looking for ideas. Boy, you've heard me say this a lot. NT5TM at W5FC.org is the address to reach out to. I love your ideas. You can be net control and lead the whole parade, but you don't have to. You can just send me your idea and I'll develop it and run with it. Finally, Travis, KI5PGM, has been reminding us each Saturday that the Plano Amateur Radio Club is still looking for volunteers for the Plano Balloon Festival. This is the biggest pain in the rear I have ever volunteered for. I have to drive up to Plano and get there at like 6 a.m., blah, blah, blah. Total pain. It's worth it. It's beautiful. It's fun. You meet some really fascinating and interesting people because, I mean, if ham radio is a tiny hobby, hot air ballooning is even smaller. URL to sign up to volunteer for this festival is a absolutely painful thing to read on the air, and if you get even one letter wrong, it doesn't work, not even in Google. So instead, if you go to W5FC.org and click on page 2 of the Skynet post, you'll see a link to sign up for the Plano Balloon Festival. I'm not even going to try to explain this. Just look at the Skynet post on the club website. Thank you for listening. I know this was a little longer than usual. NT5TM.
No, that's great. Thank you, Tony. All good announcements, all good info, and lots happening. So thank you very much for all those wonderful announcements. Do you have anyone else with any announcements for this evening's net? If so, please come now with your call sign.
KI5CGH.
KI5GGH, could I get your name and where you're transmitting from?
I thought you said check-ins.
That's fine. I'm happy to take a check-in right now. I was calling for announcements, but if you want to check into this evening's net, I'll get you checked in. I've got your call sign, KI5GGH. If you'll give me your name and you're transmitting from, I'll get you checked in.
Yes, Control, this is Ben.
Glad to have you on the air, Van. Where are you transmitting from?
Breakdown.
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time reading you. I've got you checked in. We can also get your QTH here in a little bit when it's, if you have a clearer signal. Let me go ahead with a few announcements, and then we will have another check-in round later, so you're welcome to try them so I can get your location. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time, you can check into the National AMSAT net, learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT Net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new ones coming online. You'll need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on our website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. Two local nets are available in Dallas. Both of these nets encourage active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net control as well as others checked in. The AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 MHz, with a PL tone of 110.9. Tuesdays, Tom N5HYP is the net control. All are welcome to check in. The first Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club Night, so there's no AMSAT East on that night. The Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 MHz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC hosts a number of nets on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. Check the W5FC.org website. This coming Monday will be GeekNet, as Tony mentioned, Geek Beyond Ham Radio. This Monday, Geek Out Beyond Ham Radio. We expand topics to include computers, science, space, news of the weird, and much more. No topic is off limits as long as it's geeky. Tony NT5TM is net control. And as Tony mentioned, I'll go ahead and mention it one more time, this week is Surprise Net. If we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation encouraged. Sometimes we even offer a real prize. Otherwise, show your fellow hams your technical, social, and pop culture knowledge and creativity. Saturdays are the Night of Nets, where we keep the airwaves buzzing until midnight. Here's the lineup. TechNet from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Q&A on all things ham radio related. There's also a swap meet, Rookie's Corner, news and information, and ham radio events and contests, alternating net control each week. Skynet from 9 p.m. to 10:30 p.m. Astronomy, space exploration are the topics. Also, news and information, satellite passages, and the Constellation of the Week. Join this popular net about ham's second most favorite hobby, astronomy, alternating net controls. And as Tony mentioned, following Skynet is the Afterglow movie net from 10:30 to midnight. Will it be a hit or the dreaded miss? Thumbs up or thumbs down? You make the call. We watch a science fiction movie and then review it for about 90 minutes. We discuss plot, characterization, special effects, music, and answer the question, will I dare watch this movie ever again? Everyone is welcome to check in, even if you haven't seen the movie, which might actually be a plus. The first and third Sundays are the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. What's going on in your ham world? Tell us. Also, learn about the club that maintains this popular repeater, Dallas Amateur Radio Club. Club news and information, events, activities, including club meetings, lecture and lab, public service events, contests, and just general discussion. Everyone can check into this net. And daily is the ARL net, National Traffic System Training Net, every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Learn how message traffic is handled on this formal training net. Newbies are welcome to check in, as this is a training net. The NTS also conducts an evening net on the Irving Whiskey Alpha 5 Charlie Kilo Foxtrot repeater, 146.72 MHz at 9:30 p.m. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And as we've mentioned, following Skynet is the Afterglow movie net. So at this time, I'm going to call on Tom, K5ICS, Give tonight's Afterglow info from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billye. This is KE5ICX, and here's tonight's Afterglow info. Robinson Crusoe didn't think much about the visitor. The man looked pretty normal, well, overall at least. He seemed capable, adaptable, and reliable, but Crusoe wasn't sure what to name him. Then it came to him. I'll name him after the day I discovered him. So he came up with the second Thursday after leap year and garbage pickup day. That seemed like a very long name, so he just shortened it to TSTALYGPD. But that too seemed a little too complicated, so he shortened it to Fred. Fred seemed to take to his name. However, his lift name tag plainly identified him as George Jones, trainee, and Crusoe had pretty much locked the door so George Jones couldn't really escape. His delivery to Crusoe seemed like the least of his problems. His current concern, could he open the window and slide out without Crusoe noticing? Join us for a diversion from the beaten path. The movie Robinson Crusoe from 1954 got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's been pretty much a plot line for a lot of science fiction movies that we've seen. That's tonight at 10:30. You don't have to see the movie. Come on by and we'll talk about it anyway because there's a million movies with the same plot. Back to you, Billye. This is KE5ICX.
Great, thank you, Tom. This is KF5PDS Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. And you can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, W5FC.org. We currently have the following people checked in via W5FC.org. You can go to the website, click on the hot link, and check into net. Let's see if we've got any new check-ins. And I do not see any new check-ins. We've got everybody checked in over there. If there's anybody on frequency, I'll take additional voice check-ins. So if you need to check in via voice, please come now with your call sign and where you're transmitting from. Not hearing any, so we'll move on with our next segment, which is the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. So at the time, I will call on Chaz, KF5JHA, to give us information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billye. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. In 6 days, yep, just in 6 days, in August the 28th, is the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas club meeting. The meeting is going to be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. There's also a Zoom component for members. The featured speaker is going to be Scott Roberts. Do you know who he is? He's the founder and president of Explore Scientific. Explore Scientific is the company that I got my 16-inch stub from, so this is going to be an interesting night. I can't wait for it to happen. So just 6 days from now. The Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas also hosts Saturday night public observing sessions in this area. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. But currently on the fourth Saturday of the month, that would be tonight, there are no scheduled stargazing events. But you can go to the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. This is KF5JHA, back to our net control, KF5PDS.
Great, thank you very much, Chaz. All right, next up is National Space Society events and activities. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Bill N5BB. The net is yours from KF5PS.
Okay. Hello, Billy. This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. I happen to be the Vice President and the Membership Director of the National Space Society North Texas chapter. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box and request access. Our chapter member Dan Garrison spoke last Thursday, August the 20th, in Frisco at the Technology Leaders of DFW event. This is a monthly event at a location in Frisco. His topic was the next space economy, which markets will actually scale. And it was a very, very interesting presentation. He was focusing also a lot about Texas space companies in Texas doing space things. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets on the second Sunday afternoon of each month at 3:30 p.m. at Spring Creek Barbecue and Highway 183 in Irving. The August meeting topic was the NASA Reconnaissance Orbiter, that's LRO mission, and the speaker was NASA Goddard Space Flight Center scientist, Dr. Caitlin Ahrens. That was a very interesting presentation. Our next monthly meeting is going to be on Sunday afternoon, September the 13th in Irving. The big National Space Society event every year is the International Space Development Conference, or ISDC. ISD 2026 occurred in early June in Virginia, near Washington, D.C., and I was there. Next year, ISDC 2027 will be held in Los Angeles, California, near LAX Airport, from May the 27th through the 30th, 2027. If you have any questions about the National Space Society or any of these events, please contact Bill, N5BD, that's November 5, Bravo, Bravo, at my QRZ listed email address or at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net. And that's all that I have, Billy. This is N5BD. Back to Net Control.
Great. Thank you very much, Bill. This is KF5PDS Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Next, we have a special segment by Keith, K5KVJ. Are you on frequency able to read, Keith? If so, give me an audio check.
Yes, ma'am. This is Keith, K5KVJ, on frequency. A little nervous, but yep, I'm on here.
Excellent. Reading you very loud and clear. You got a very strong signal and really crisp, clear, able to hear you. So don't be nervous. We're all friends here. Looking forward to your segment. So go ahead, Keith. I'll turn it over to you, K5KVJ from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Net Control, and good evening, everyone. This is Kilo 5, Kilo Victor Juliet. Name here is Keith. I'm over in Crowley. And my presentation this evening is actually two parts. The first part was called Send Your Name to the Moon. And what that was a NASA project for the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, or LRO, was a public outreach initiative that allowed individuals to submit their names to be stored on a microchip on board the spacecraft. The LRO successfully launched on June the 18th, 2009, and remains in lunar orbit today, meaning all submitted names have been circling the moon for almost 2 decades. The deadline, public submissions officially closed on June the 27th, 2008. I submitted my name on May the 6th, 2008, so I got in early. The technology. NASA collected approximately 1.6 million names and used an electron beam to stencil them onto a dime-sized microchip integrated directly into the spacecraft. The partnership, this was a project that was in collaboration between NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, the Planetary Society, and the Johns Hopkins University Applied Physics Laboratory. The keepsake. Participants received a downloadable, printable certificate of participation featuring their name as submitted, the date it was submitted, and a unique certificate number. I was the 605,987th person to add my name to the list, so about halfway through. A brief synopsis of this mission was NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter is a highly successful robotic spacecraft that has been continuously orbiting and mapping the moon since June 18th of 2009. As the longest-lived lunar orbiting mission in history, LRO is currently operating in its extended Science Mission 6, or ESM-6 phase, which runs from October of 2025 through September 2028. The probe has enough fuel to sustain active operations until at least 2027. Core mission objectives were originally launched as the vanguard of the Lunar Precursor Robotic Program. LRO transitioned from an exploration-focused scout to a prolific pure science asset. His primary responsibilities included landing site selection, mapping safe topographies for upcoming crewed NASA Artemis missions, and private commercial lunar payload services landers. Resource hunting, such as locating water ice deposits and volatiles inside permanently shadowed regions near the lunar South Pole. Environmental characterizations, tracking extreme polar temperatures, changes in local radiation, and dynamic global elevation profiles. Break for the repeater. All right, K5KVJ continuing. The next part was NASA's Send Your Name to Mars project for the InSight mission allowed the public to submit their names to be etched onto a silicone microchip carried to the Martian surface, giving participants a souvenir boarding pass with, quote, frequent flyer, close quote, miles, along with an InSight mission patch. Both of those were JPEGs. Over 2 million names flew on the InSight lander. The InSight goal? Study the deep interior and Mars quakes of Mars. Public participation? Over 2.4 million total names were submitted across multiple microchips for the InSight campaign. The microchip. Names were etched using an electron beam onto silicone chips placed directly on the spacecraft. Frequent flyer program. Participants earned digital, quote, frequent flyer, close quote, points, and downloadable souvenir boarding passes, again JPEG, recording their miles traveled into deep space. Mission overview and timeline. The date launched was May the 5th, 2018, aboard an Atlas V-401 rocket from Vandenberg Air Force Base, California. Landing date was November the 26th of 2018 at Elysium Planitia, Mars. End of mission, December the 15th, 2022, after dust accumulation on the solar panels halted power generation. Fun fact, I looked this up. That dust was a result of a planet-wide dust storm. Think about that for a minute. Whoa. Total cost, approximately $814 million. Scientific goals and instruments. The acronym meaning, what does InSight mean? Interior exploration using seismic investigations, geodesy, and heat transport. I'm getting lost here. Sorry about that. Additional acronyms. Sorry about that. My bad. I was, again, nervous. Additional acronyms. SEIS stands for Seismic Experiment for Interior Structure. And that is a highly sensitive seismometer that recorded 1,319 Marsquakes, revealing details about the crust, mantle, and the core. HP3, that stood for Heat Flow in Physical Properties Package, which was a self-hammering heat probe, or a mole, designed to measure internal temperatures, though constrained by unexpected soil properties. What those properties were, I wasn't able to ascertain. RISE, that stood for Rotation and Interior Structure Experiment, used radio tracking to measure planetary wobbles and reveal core dimensions. Key discoveries. Marsquakes proved that Mars is seismically active, recording over 1,300 individual tectonic events. Interior mapping provided the first detailed profile of the Martian crust, mantle, and core. Subsurface insight. This will raise an eyebrow. Seismic data later contributed to models indicating potential mid-crust underground water reservoirs. Break for the repeater. Okay, K5KVJ, in conclusion, sadly I missed the Perseverance rover mission, which was launched in July of 30th on 2020 and safely landed on February the 18th of 2021. How to find out any additional information, for those that are interested, you can Google NASA Send Your Name to Mars project, which will bring up a brief AI overview description of the project. Beneath all of that, it should be the first website that will take you to the NASA link. So for those needing a direct URL, and you can get your big cheap tablet crayon handy, science.nasa.gov/send-your-name-to-Mars. You must include the dashes. At this time, they are not taking reservations as there are currently no Mars or Moon missions scheduled. They will reopen reservations closer to a launch date for a future Mars mission. My recommendation is to bookmark the above URL, then check back every 6 or 8 months or so to see if there's any updates. I did do a little digging, and the best that I could find was what looks like NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory currently designing the Skyfall mission targeting a late 2028 launch, which will be deploying a trio of advanced helicopters, 1 large and 2 small, to explore our neighboring red planet. And that concludes my presentation, ma'am. I thank you very much for allowing me to do that. I hope I didn't mess it up too terribly bad. K5KBJ.
Oh, thanks, Keith. That was really great. That was lots of great information, and it was really interesting to hear your personal connection to the information, and especially your registry number for your boarding pass. I always look forward to when those come out. I like to submit my name for those as well and get the commemorative pass. So we'll have to keep an eye out. And just as a reminder, I know at the beginning we mentioned that we had audio, video links and everything online. And I just want to remind you, you can go to YouTube to DARC Skynet, and you can see all the wonderful slideshows and graphics that Tom is presenting over there on YouTube. So do make sure to check that out. And stay tuned, because I'll have my discussion topic of the evening, and Chaz will have Was Up. There will be slideshows out too. Keith, again, thank you for the wonderful job. Loved having you for that special segment. Come again with more wonderful stuff. This is KF5PDS, Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is discussion topic of the evening. So my topic this evening is NASA's Dragonfly mission. I like to look at current missions, but I also like to look out and see what future missions are coming up, and I thought this one was really interesting, and I very much look forward to this future mission. Dragonfly is the first of its kind rotorcraft to explore another world. It will fly to various locations on Saturn's moon Titan and investigate the moon's habitability. It is a rotorcraft. It's a quadcopter. Its launch is no earlier than July 2028. The target is Titan, and the arrival is late 2034. Quote from ZB Turtle, Dragonfly isn't a mission to detect life. It's a mission to investigate the chemistry that came before the biology here on Earth. And ZB Turtle is the Dragonfly principal investigator, planetary scientist at Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory. So to give a mission overview, this is an airborne science mission like no other. Never before have humans planned on airborne science mission to another world like Dragonfly. The Dragonfly rotorcraft will break the barriers for exploration of other planetary bodies. Instead of being limited to just the region around its landing site, Dragonfly's rotors will carry it for miles across Titan during its planned 3.3-year mission, stopping to explore a variety of geologically interesting areas along the way, including dunes and Selk Crater. Dragonfly is expected to make one flight every 1 to 2 Titan days, which is called a T-sol, and lasts about 16 Earth days. Sampling the surface. Traveling several miles on each flight through the yellowish, smoggy haze of Titan's nitrogen-rich atmosphere, Dragonfly will stop at a variety of geologic sites where it will collect samples of surface material for analysis inside the rotorcraft by a suite of scientific instruments. The exploration of these diverse locations will help to characterize the habitability of Titan's environment, investigate how far prebiotic chemistry has progressed, identify compounds of astrobiological interest, and even search for chemical indicators of water-based or hydrocarbon-based life. And there are links to several articles on this page. This is science.nasa.gov. You can just Google NASA Dragonfly mission. There's a YouTube called Eye on Dragonfly. There's a great video. I'm going to pop over to NASA's Dragonfly clears key tests as Titan rotorcraft takes shape. So this is information about where we are with Dragonfly at the moment. This article came out in July of this year, and it is an article by NASA Science Editorial Team, Aaron Morton. So this article is July 9th, 2026. NASA's Dragonfly is starting to look less like a collection of spacecraft parts and more like the rotorcraft that will fly across the surface of Titan, Saturn's hazy moon. The mission reached a major milestone on June 29th when the Dragonfly team at the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, or APL, in Laurel, Maryland, delivered the nearly 13-foot-long fuselage for the next phase of spacecraft integration ahead of schedule. The delivery followed a roughly month-long process of structural testing of the lander frame assembly, which carried many of the features that give the Dragonfly rotorcraft its unmistakable shape, including its landing skids, the cap for the spacecraft's power source, and the arms that will eventually hold its 8 sets of rotors. It was pretty awesome to see the lander as we designed it become real, said Hunter Reeling, Dragonfly Thermal Mechanical Integration and Test Lead from APL. With structural testing complete and the fuselage delivered, the team started integrating the mechanical, thermal, and electrical systems on July 1st, kicking off the process that will turn the lander into the flying science lab it's meant to be. Throughout the month, they'll populate Dragonfly's fuselage with flight bulkheads, as well as the wiring harness, cables, and connectors, the electrical nervous system that ties Dragonfly's systems together. Electronics boxes, avionics, and science instruments will follow as mission partners across the country complete their own assembly and test campaigns. From here, it's about populating that structure with electronics boxes, instruments, wiring, insulation, everything that will enable its mission, Reeling said. It's all about getting Dragonfly ready to launch. So there's some information, again, at science.nasa.gov on the future mission Dragonfly. Does anyone have any questions or comments for tonight's presentation? If so, please come now with your call sign. Okay, not hearing any, but we'll go ahead and pause for a check-in round. Let me check our club website check-in sheet. And it doesn't look like, oh, there's a new check-in there, AB5DM. Just checked in. That is Dustin in Dallas, Over Air Radio. Welcome, Dustin. Do we have any on-air check-ins? If you have not checked into this evening's event, please come now with your call sign name where you're transmitting from. Okay, not hearing any, so we'll go ahead and move over to What's Up. So at this time, I will return the net to Chaz, KF5JHA. The net is yours from KF5PDS.
Thank you once again, Billy. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's all about what has gone on astronomically recently and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and maybe a bit beyond. That was slide number 2. We've talked about the video version of Skynet. If you want to go to that, go to the W5FC.org and click on the link that'll get you to the YouTube video version of it, where we have slides. Billy was talking about those a minute ago. Slide Master, slide number 3 in my slide deck. I've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Coronaborealis, which could erupt at any time. I'm laughing because it's currently at a brightness of 10th magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. T Coronaborealis was supposed to go nova about 2 years ago. One recent prediction was for it to go nova around June the 25th. Let me check my watch. No, my calendar. Yeah, I think June 25th has passed. So that has not happened. I just checked it a few minutes ago. It still has not happened. But when it does go nova, T Coronavirus could become as bright as the North Star, which is second magnitude. Now, I can see the North Star with just my two eyes from my very light polluted location here in Mesquite, Texas. Slide master, slide number 4, please. If you're looking at the video version, this image of the sun was taken on August the 19th, just a couple of days ago, by the SDO, the Solar Dynamic Observatory, and I copied it from the website spaceweather.com. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times that you can just use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. We had solar eclipse viewers at the Dallas College. The sun has just passed its 11-year solar maximum, which was around August of 2024. I presented information about the solar cycle about 6 months ago on Skynet. Slide master, slide number 5. Now, the first quarter moon was just a few days ago on August the 19th. So the current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. Did you see it tonight? It's up there. I had to look through some clouds to see it, but I found it. Also, there's a bright object over in the west. That's the planet Venus. On August the 22nd, the moon is at apogee. Wait, that's tonight. Oh, yep, that's today. Apogee is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,642 kilometers. Full moon will be on August the 27th, and there's going to be a lunar eclipse. Well, I'll talk more about the lunar eclipse in just a few minutes. Third quarter moon is going to be on September the 4th. September the 6th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 368,259 kilometers. New moon will be on September the 10th. Slide master, slide number 6. On August 25th, that's just in a few days, there's going to be a conjunction of the moon and the planet, okay, it's a dwarf planet, Pluto in the southeastern evening sky. Now, Pluto you cannot see with your two eyes. No, can't see it with a pair of binoculars. Can't see with a lot of smaller telescopes. You need a moderate-sized telescope. And what you need is a good star map. Point your telescope and you believe the right location. Make a diagram of what all those little bright dots are in your field of view. Then go back and look at the same field of view in a couple of days. The thing that moved is probably the planet Pluto. I've only seen the planet Pluto once through a telescope, and that was a 36-inch telescope. Slide master, slide number 7. Now, this week, there's going to be a special thing that happens, an eclipse of the moon on August the 27th through the 28th. It's a partial lunar eclipse. The last total lunar eclipse visible from Dallas was on March 3rd of this year. The next total lunar eclipse from Dallas that you can see is going to be on June the 26th of the year 2029. The next partial eclipse of the moon will be on January the 12th, 2028. Now, there's other eclipses that are visible from other parts of the Earth. That's what we can see from here. Now, let me tell you the details about the August 27th, 28th lunar eclipse. Here we go. There's a lighter and a darker part of the Earth's shadow. The lighter part of the Earth's shadow is called the penumbra. The darker part is called the umbra. The moon enters the penumbra, the lighter part of the Earth's shadow, at 8:24 p.m. Central Daylight Time. It's difficult to notice this phase of the eclipse because the moon only slightly dims. The moon starts to enter the darker part of the Earth's shadow, called the umbra, at 9:34 p.m. Central Daylight Time. That's when the eclipse becomes visible. All you need is just your two eyes, but a pair of binoculars or a telescope can really enhance the view. The middle of the eclipse is going to be at 11:12 p.m. Central Daylight Time. That's the maximum eclipse. That's when 93% of the moon is inside the umbra shadow, the darker part of the Earth's shadow. So it's almost a total lunar eclipse, but not quite. The moon leaves the umbra, the darker part of the Earth's shadow, at 12:52 a.m. That would be on August the 28th. And the moon leaves the penumbra and the eclipse ends at 2:01 p.m. Central Daylight Time on August the 28th. North Texas will see the entire eclipse if the weather is clear. Slide Master, slide number 8, please. On August the 30th, there's a conjunction of the Moon, the planet Saturn, the planet Neptune, and the eastern evening sky. Yep, all of them there. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 9. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? My degree's in astrophysics. I might be able to answer your question. Or maybe someone else here on the Skynet might be able to answer your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill.
Kilo Victor K5KVJ. I'll get it out right.
I'm not the only one. BJ, go ahead. What's your question or the request for a fill?
Oh, boy. Well, actually, I was going to let everybody know I have an app on my phone called Skyview Lite. And I think the reason it's light is because it's the free one. But you can use that, and it will show you where everything is out there, both above and below the equator, including the Hubble Space Telescope and International Space Station. So I just wanted to point that out, put that out there in case anybody might be interested in something like that for their phone. Oh, sorry, K5KVJ.
KVJ, that's great. You know, one of these times on Skynet, one of our net controls needs to do a coverage of some of the free apps that you can get on your phone. I've got several of them on my phone. I don't have that one that you have, but I'm going to explore it, especially since it's free. Yeah, there you go. Thank you so much. This is what makes Skynet really interesting if we have some feedback back and forth between people. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 10. Says the moon wanes in a few weeks, or about a week and a half. So do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. Until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet, which is transmitting on the W5FC repeater in Dallas, Texas at 146.88 megahertz. Skynet is also available on Echolink and YouTube. We've talked about both of those over the last hour or so. Back to our net control. It's up to you, Billy.
Great. Thank you, Chaz. This is KF5PDS, Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is space exploration and space history. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Gus, W5GUS. The net is yours from KF5PDS.
Okay, thank you, Billy. W5GUS here with space exploration news we'll start with. And let's see, the first article is during a U.S. spacewalk, number 97, European Space Agency astronaut Sophie Adno and NASA astronaut Anil Menon conducted a 6-hour and 23-minute spacewalk outside the International Space Station. The duo successfully removed a failed space-to-ground antenna, which made the French woman, the first French woman to perform a spacewalk ever, making Adno the first French woman in history to perform a spacewalk, and that was on the 18th. Okay, a couple days later, Rocket Lab, the company Rocket Lab, successfully launched an Electron rocket from New Zealand, carrying the Susanoo-2 synthetic aperture radar, SAR, Earth observation satellite for the Tokyo-based company IQPS. The mission was titled The Lightning God Defends, and supports IQPS plans to deploy a 36-satellite constellation soon. Okay, August 21st, the U.S. administration released a new presidential memorandum setting a target for national space launch ranges to support over 1,000 launches and re-entries annually by 2030. The policy aims to streamline commercial space operations, expedite environmental reviews, and expand infrastructure. And on a little sadder note, reports confirmed that the satellite boosting rescue mission for the Swift Observatory has failed. The LINK satellite, designed by Catalyst Space Technologies to raise the observatory's decaying orbit, encountered control issues shortly after launch, leaving the observatory at risk of re-entry and burning up. That was reported August 21st. And that was it for news, so let's move to space-related birthdays. We'll start with August 16th. Stuart Roosa was born, 1933. He was a command module pilot for Apollo 14, who carried hundreds of tree seeds into orbit around the moon that were later germinated on Earth. Also, August 16th, about 3 years later, in 1939, Valery Rumin was born. She was a Soviet-Russian cosmonaut and a flight engineer who logged over 371 days in space across 4 missions, including long-duration stays on the Soyuz 6 station. All right, August 17th, 1952, Catherine Thornton was born. American scientist and NASA astronaut who logged over 40 days in space and performed 3 spacewalks, including the first servicing mission for the Hubble Space Telescope. All right, August 18th, about 6 years later, in 1958, Sergeyev Tereshkov was born, a Russian cosmonaut who logged over 184 days in space as a flight engineer on ISS Expedition 5, that's an early one, and performed a spacewalk to install space-to-ground antennas. Wonder if that might have been one that they replaced, the French woman replaced. Okay, August 19th, 1935, Story Musgrave was born, a retired NASA astronaut and physician who flew on 6 space shuttle flights, performed the first space shuttle spacewalk, and served on the first Hubble servicing mission. All right, also August 19th, Charles Bolden was born in 1946. Marine Corps Major General and NASA astronaut who piloted the mission that deployed the Hubble Space Telescope and later served as the 12th administrator of NASA. Also, August 19th, but in 1962, Mike Massimino was born. He was an American engineer and NASA astronaut who logged over 23 days in space across 2 shuttle servicing missions to the Hubble Space Telescope, performing 4 spacewalks. All right, August 20th, Jean-Louis Chastain was born. August 20th, 1938, a French retired Air Force Brigadier General, an astronaut who became the first Western European in space during his 1982 mission to Salyut 7 space station. Okay, and the last birthday for this past week, Harold P. Carr, August 22nd, 1932. He was a retired U.S. Marine Corps colonel, an astronaut who commanded Skylab 4, the final crewed mission to the Skylab space station, logging over 48 days in space. Okay, let's move to this week in space history. August 16th, 1963, NASA's M2F1, a lightweight wingless lifting body prototype, completed its first successful glide flight, towed behind an R-4D tow plane. It was nicknamed the Flying Bathtub. The M2F1 was built to test the concept of wingless lifting bodies, which generate lift from their aerodynamic shape rather than traditional wings. The success of the M2F1 program validated the lifting body concept, which directly influenced the design of future spacecraft, including the Space Shuttle, and subsequent lifting body re-entry vehicle concepts. And that was back in August 16th, 1963. Okay, on August 17th, 1877, American astronomer Isaiah Hall discovered Phobos, the largest and innermost of the 2 moons of Mars, during a systematic search at the U.S. Naval Observatory. Hall discovered the outer moon, Deimos, just a few days earlier, on August 11th, and this is August 17th. It was named after the mythological son of Ares, or Mars. Phobos is a small, irregularly shaped body orbiting extremely close to Mars. Its discovery provided astronomers with early insights into Martian gravity and orbit dynamics, and Phobos remains a primary target for future robotic exploration. Okay, August 19th, back in 1961, the Soviet Union launched the Sputnik 5 spacecraft carrying 2 dogs, along with 40 mice, 2 rats, and a variety of plants. After spending a day in orbit, the spacecraft successfully re-entered Earth's atmosphere and landed safely on August the 20th, 1960. This historic flight marked the first time that complex living organisms successfully traveled into orbit and returned alive, providing that living creatures could survive the orbital space environment and paving the way for Yuri Gagarin historic flight less than a year later. And just before that, there was a dog the Russians launched into orbit or into space. But it returned, it was not alive when it returned. So this was the first time they successfully put some animals up there and returned alive. Okay, August 20th, 1977, NASA launched Voyager 2 aboard a Titan III rocket from Cape Canaveral. on a historic mission to explore the outer solar system. Utilizing a rare alignment of the outer planets, Voyager 2 conducted a grand tour, becoming the first and only spacecraft to perform close flybys of all 4 giant planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Voyager 2 sent back groundbreaking high-resolution images of those worlds and their rings, and eventually crossing the heliopause in 2018 to enter interstellar space, where it continues to transmit data. That's Voyager 2, launched in August 20th, 1977. Okay, August 21st, but 1965, NASA launched the Gemini 5 spacecraft carrying astronauts Gordon Cooper, Charles Pete Conrad, and aboard a Titan II launch vehicle. The primary objective of the 8-day mission was to test crew endurance and demonstrate that humans could survive the duration of a round-trip lunar flight. Gemini 5 set a new spaceflight endurance record at the time and marked the first operational use of fuel cells in space to generate electricity. The crew famously flew with NASA's first custom insignia patch carrying the slogan, 8 days or bust. Okay, on August 22nd, 1963, Air Force test pilot Joe Walker flew the rocket-powered North American X-15 aircraft into an altitude of 354 feet. No, 354. Let's see, that would be 354,200 feet, about 107 kilometers. 354,200 feet, that's it. Establishing a program altitude record that would stand for the duration of the project. By crossing the 100-kilometer boundary, it's called the Kármán line, the flight was officially classified as a space flight, making Walker the first person to fly into space twice. The X-15 program provided an invaluable aerodynamic, thermal, and physiological data that contributed directly to the design of the Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, and Space Shuttle programs. Okay, and lastly, last week there was something that just happened last Saturday, just before this report last Saturday, where information was just hastily put out that reported last Saturday indicated that a missile strike hit a major Soyuz rocket production facility over in Russia. The facility produces rocket boosters used for ISS crew and cargo transport, among other electronics and things like that. And we weren't sure exactly if that might have been like a cover-up for an accident or not, but the next day, Sunday, August 16th, there was an Associated Press article confirming that a large-scale Ukrainian attack struck industrial infrastructure in Russia's southwest Samara region, according to a Russian official. He also said that air defense forces had repelled a massive missile attack with localized damage to the city's industrial sites over there in Russia. And the same article mentions briefly here that writing on social media, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said that Kiev forces had carried out a strike against Samara's Progress Center, which operates under Russian space agency Roscosmos and is involved in producing rocket technology and electronics. So that was an actual missile strike from Ukraine over to that site in Russia, and it's about 560 miles from the Ukrainian border where those Ukrainian rockets landed. So that was a confirmed Ukrainian hit, and it was an actual site explosion there, and not an excuse for some accident. Okay, with that, we'll go back to Billye, net control and look for Chaz's some jokes from Chaz in the near future. Okay, back to you, Billye, W5GUS.
Great, you guys. This is KF5PDS, Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. So at this time, I will return the net to Chaz. KF5JHA, the net is yours from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billye. We're going to do an abbreviated version because we're getting a little bit late into Skynet. So here we go. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 till May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation. In her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is called Sagittarius, the Centaur. Sagittarius is a mythological creature that's half human and half horse, and Sagittarius is an archer as well. But most people say that Sagittarius looks like a teapot. The amazing thing is that it is a hot teapot. How do I know? You can see the steam coming out of the spout of the teapot, spanning the entire sky. The steam is the Milky Way. Slide Master, slide number 12, the jokes of the week. Guys, thanks for introducing the jokes each week. That's wonderful. We're going to do an abbreviation version of the jokes as well. You hear about the man that was hospitalized with 6 plastic horses inside of him? The doctor described his condition as stable. Think about it. You'll get this joke. What did the horse say when it fell? I've fallen and I can't get it. How do you know a horse is sick? Because it's a pony. You know, a little horse. Okay, one more. How do you make a small fortune on horse racing? Well, you start with a large fortune. Okay. Slide Master, slide number 13. I usually talk about a few stars in the constellation of the week, but not this week because Sagittarius happens to be in the direction of the center of the Milky Way galaxy. At the center of the Milky Way, there's a black hole with a mass that's more than 1 million suns. The constellation of Sagittarius is full of globular star clusters, open star clusters, nebulas, and much more. So I'll talk just about one double star, Nuki. Nuki is in the handle of the teapot. The primary star is about 227 light years away from us and shines at its second magnitude. There's a spectroscopic secondary star in the Barren area that's too close to be seen visually. But there's a close-by 9th magnitude star that I use in astronomy students at the Dallas College to observe as a visual binary. Slide Master, slide number 14. Busy object number 8 is the famous Lagoon Nebula, easily visible to the naked eye from dark sky sight. M8 is obviously a nebula, even though the smallest instruments and binoculars and finder scopes and small telescopes, yep, they can all see it. The associated open star cluster, NGC 6530, is easily seen in small telescopes as well. Slide Master, slide number 15. M20 is the Trifid Nebula. It's famous because it's been on one of the pictures on Star Trek on the Enterprise, yep. You can see the nebulosity, both the bright red emission Nebula and the fainter blue reflection nebula. But it's hard to see the dark dust lanes when you're looking through a telescope. Slide master, slide number 16. M17 is the Swan or the Omega Nebula. The Swan appearance is easy to make out. As one happily and thrilled observer in the upper field of the recent Texas Star Party shouted out for all to hear, "It really does look like a swan." The brightest part of the nebula makes a shape much like a check mark as well. The name Omega Nebula comes from the curved portion of the nebula that forms a swan's neck and head. Slide master, slide number 17. M22 is a beautiful globular star cluster, and a globular star cluster is supposed to look like these. It resolves into dozens of stars easily at just 41 power in a telescope. And slide master, we're going to skip clear down to slide number 19. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects, actually quite a few, in the constellation of Sagittarius. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects.
Normal.
At last count, the Astronomical League has 177 different observing programs. Most have about 100 objects. So if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide master, slide number 20, and that is Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, Sagittarius, the Centaur. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal from them for every Skynet. Also, at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next week we'll take a look at Lyra, the Harp. Oh, if you want more detailed information about Sagittarius, the Centaur, the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting on Friday, that's the constellation we'll highlight. And we'll have lots more objects we'll talk about then. And this is KF5JHA saying good night, 73, and back to our net control.
I'm completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Okay, yeah, we are coming rapidly to the conclusion. So, unfortunately, we won't get to space launches or satellite passes, but let me give you a couple of websites so you can go check these yourself. For spaceflight, you can go to spaceflightnow.com and look at the launch schedule. And for satellite passes, we were going to skip that anyway because there are no visible passes right now, but you can go to heavens-above.com website to see what's in orbit and where to look for flyovers. So let's go ahead and close the net. Tonight we had 28 hams participating on the air, so thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5PDS Billye, and I'll be closing the net at 22:31 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And here in just a few minutes, we will move over to the Afterglow movie net, which the discussion will be, again, Robinson Crusoe from 1954. 73, everybody.
Thank you, Billye, and everybody on the net for Skynet. We will start the Afterglow Movie Net in 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Sounds like some kind of TV show.
Okay, it's been 5 minutes, and it's time for the Afterglow Movie Net discussion. We went a little different direction this time. We went with a classic film from 1954, one I'd never heard of before, but our previous film was from 1954, and it was nice. It should be a nice contrast. I had never heard of this film. Well, I know the story of Robinson Crusoe. I'd not heard of this particular film, having discovered that it was made in Mexico. Let me tell you a little bit about it, and then we'll go ahead and get started with our discussion. It was a 1954 adventure film directed by Louis Buñuel, based on the 1719 novel of the same name by Daniel Defoe. Stars Dan O'Hurley, I don't know who that is, as Crusoe, and Jamie Fernandez as Friday. Both English and Spanish versions were produced, making it the first English language film of Buñuel. The film was entered into the 15th Venice International Film Festival, which was critical and commercial success. It won 6 aerial awards in Mexico. That's the Mexican Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Director. O'Hurley was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor, and the film was nominated for a BAFTA Award for Best Film from Any Source. And the story goes like this, if you don't remember from your high school literature class. Robinson Crusoe, his parents' third son with few prospects, goes to sea against his father's wishes. On a voyage from Brazil to Africa to purchase slaves, a storm forces him to abandon ship. He manages to swim to a deserted island somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean on September 30th, 1659. The abandoned ship shows up on an offshore rock, allowing him to salvage food, tools, firearms, and other items before it sinks. He herds goats, hunts game, makes clothes, builds a home with only the company of a dog, Rex, and a cat, Sam, as his fellow castaways. He later captures a parrot that he names Paul and teaches it to speak. Crusoe sends Sam and her kittens run wild when Rex dies of old age in 1673. Crusoe nearly goes insane from loneliness. In 1677, he discovers that cannibals are visiting his island with their victims. The next time he spots them with his telescope, he sees a prisoner make a break for it, pursued by 2 cannibals. He knocks out one and shoots the other. When the first one regains consciousness, the escapee kills him and Crusoe's sword. Crusoe takes the man back to his stockade. He names him Friday after the day of the week they met. Crusoe teaches him English and Western customs and turns Friday into a servant. Crusoe does not trust him at first, believing Friday to be also a cannibal who would kill him if given a chance. He builds a door to the cave in which he takes to sleeping. When Friday enters without permission late one night to sneak some tobacco, Crusoe puts leg irons on him. The next day, however, Crusoe relents and takes them off. He comes to trust his new companion completely. In 1687, Friday saves Crusoe from a cannibal sneaking up behind him. Seeing a large group, they flee back to the stockade. Cannibals, however, are driven off by white men with guns. Captain Orbanzo and his bosom are the victims of the mutiny. The bowsmen, we'll get it right, are the victims of the mutiny. The mutineers landed to get fresh water and maroon the 2. Crusoe and Friday rescue the men and get away undetected. Friday then goes to the leader of the mutiny, offering him a basket of fruit, but the mutineers are more interested in the necklace of gold chains salvaged from Crusoe's ship, which he's wearing. Friday leads the greedy men to the stockade. There, Crusoe, Friday, Orbanzo, and Bozeman capture them. Orbanzo regains control of the ship. At Crusoe's suggestion, Orbanzo leaves them his tools and instructions on how to survive. Crusoe leaves for home on Friday, having spent 28 years, 2 months and 19 days on the island. That's the story. It was popular. More than 300 actors were considered for the lead role before it was still selected. Orson Welles was also considered, but was considered too fat and too loud to play the role, which I think was probably correct. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So this is how this game is played. We go ahead and take check-ins. We ask if you've seen the movie. You don't have to have seen the movie. We appreciate check-ins whether you have or not. We'll be talking about a lot of different aspects of the marooned scenario, so don't feel like you're going to be left out, because you won't. Then we will talk about, start on the round 1, talking about the plot. Round 2 be about the characterization and acting, and round 3 having to do the technical aspects of the film or anything that we may have missed on rounds 1 and 2. So we'll go ahead and get started. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie, Robinson Crusoe from 1954. Let's go.
This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo Bravo, Bill and Irving. Yes, I saw this movie.
Kilo India 5, Juliet Charlie Mike. I saw this movie a long time ago, but I also saw Robinson Crusoe in space. Does that count?
It is November Tango 5, Tango Mike. I only saw a few minutes of the movie, but I've read the book several times.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia and Fort Worth. Yes, I saw the movie.
Okay, there's pause in the action. I'll go ahead and get folks checked in. I got N5BB, Bill and Irving. Yes, he saw the film. I've got KI5JCM. He saw the film, but he also saw Robinson Crusoe on Mars. On Mars, one of my favorite films with Adam West. Do you mind, could I get your name and your location, please?
Certainly, I thought I said Thomas in Grapevine.
Well, that's a great name. I should have recognized it if I had heard it. But okay, I got you over in Grapevine. I've got NT5TM Tony, who's read the book and watched a few minutes of the movie, so we'll give him a yes. NV5F Virginia and Fort Worth. Yes, she saw the film. Additional check-ins, please come now.
Alpha Charlie 5, Victor Charlie. Yes, I saw the film.
KI5GGH.
Okay, I got two more. I got to fill some stuff in here. I've got AC5VC. Could I get the date and your location, please?
Yeah, AC5VC. Indicate.
I should have known that. Cecil or Mesquite, welcome. The next station I got, I'm not sure. There was a lot of static. I got, I think, AI5 Victor something, maybe. Go ahead and give me your full call, your name, and did you see the film?
AI5GGH fan.
Okay, I think it's phonetically, is it Kilo India 5 Victor George Alpha? Is that right? I'm not quite sure. Couldn't quite get it. Could you give it to me phonetically? I think Vance is the name.
India. Wait a minute. King India Golf Hotel Fan.
Well, I still didn't get it. Could you increase power a little bit? I'm sorry, I'm also going through all-star link here, so let me turn this up to 11 and see if I can get it one more time. Go ahead and give it to me one more time. Sorry, I'm just having a real hard time pulling you out tonight.
Five, golf, hotel, van.
I got it that time. Kilo India 5, Golf, Hotel, Vance. Oh, and Vance, did you see the film? Okay, we got wires crossed. Anyone else want to check in? I'm going to say yes on Vance. We'll see if we get him on the first round. Anyone else want to join us, please? Come now. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Obviously, I'll take additional check-ins later on. I think we will have some latecomers, so we'll start with Bill, N5DB. He saw the movie. What did you think of the plot for 1954's Robinson Crusoe from KT5ICX?
Oh, thank you, Tom. This is N5DB. Well, of course, this is all based on Daniel Defoe's novel from, a couple hundred years ago. I have to look up when it was published. So, of course, this story's been told in many places, many times. So, not having read the original, at least recently, I might have read it, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. But not having read the thing recently, I can't tell you how this movie accurate it was compared to the original novel. But I believe they pretty much just duplicated what was in the novel. So the plot was what the plot was. Some things about the plot that kind of bothered me was that Robinson Crusoe was expecting to have a slave. So he actually had with him some shackles to be used for a slave. That's the way I understood it. So I believe this novel was set in the middle of 1700s, but I have to go back and look at originally. Anyway, some things about the plot I think were a little odd. He just happened to be able to get all those key things that he needed to survive, along with lots and lots of stuff to drink. And I did not understand the cat having babies unless it was shortly after he got there, because no evidence of any male cats around. But maybe the cat was already pregnant when the shipwreck occurred. I thought his clothing remained in good condition for a very long time before he modified it. What else about the plot? All this cannibalism thing was, don't know how realistic that really was, but that was from when the book was written, story was written, there were a lot of a lot of racist attitudes about things, and including some. I think they played up the cannibalism more than it really existed like that. What else? Let's see. I think that's it. Again, this isn't really a very modern story as far as the cannibalism, the way that Robinson Crusoe treated the other people. Although he was trying to be a nice guy, he also was he was willing to kill them willy-nilly. And he was willing to immediately suspect that Friday was going to steal from him. And, of course, he gave Friday a name. He didn't let Friday supply his own name, really. So, anyway. But it's a story. I guess that's it. N5DB.
All right, thank you, Bill. And yes, there was cannibalism back then, and all of that. Many of the islanders at that time were wiped out by disease later on and replaced by slaves, really, basically, throughout the islands. But at the time, prior to that, there was a lot of different tribes, warring tribes, and cannibalism was fairly, I wouldn't say rampant, but it existed. Okay, next up is Thomas, KI5JCM. Hello, Thomas, and welcome. What did you think about the plot for our movie Robinson Crusoe? And if you've got anything you want to add or discuss about any other film you've seen, that's fine too. I'm with you. Robinson Crusoe on Mars is one of my favorite films. I think you mentioned that. Please go ahead with your comments from KE5ICX.
Well, without mysterious aliens coming and blowing things up, it's a little slow. Honestly, probably Swiss Family Robinson, the Disney-fied version of this, was a lot more family-friendly and fun. I don't remember much about this film. Then again, I'm falling asleep sitting in my chair here, so that may have something to do with it. But other than that, KI5JC and back to net control.
Okay, no problem. Let's go on to Tony, NT5TM. Tony's read the book, so let's see how that squares with the movie, parts of the movie you did see. So, Tony, go ahead. What your comments, please, from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. The main thought that I took from this movie, both when I first read the book many years ago and when I saw it just now, and when I saw War of the Worlds, yes, the Tom Cruise movie, was about supplies. Really did not understand when I first read the book why he thought it was worth taking supplies off the ship. Because how long could it possibly take to get from, say, I don't know, London to New York? Maybe 7, 8 days, maybe 9 if you encounter a hurricane or something. What good would it be? No, I had to be patiently taught in 6th grade that no, it routinely took 30 days or so to cross the Atlantic, and often longer, so ships often carried supplies for, 2 months or more. Now, you would still get scurvy because what you got here was ship's biscuit and salt pork, but if you could combine that with some fresh food by hunting, as Mr. Crusoe did, you could actually extend your survival by quite a long time. Plus, of course, all the ammunition and metal implements he got, a good axe and a good knife make a huge difference, really made it more of a soft landing for him rather than an abrupt, I'm, cast on a desert island with only a basketball. and an abscess tooth. Why I compared that to War of the Worlds, Tom, I think you mentioned this, although if someone else deserves the credit, I'll be happy to share it with them. The TV reporters who were dragging the catering cart from an airplane, that was the only food they could get. I'm thinking of all the things we might have in our houses. Campbell's soup, frozen burritos, dried beans, rice. There's so many non-perishable food things around us in an emergency. If we would only look at them, and the pretzels from an airplane were basically useless. So you compare that to Mr. Crusoe salvaging all that ship's biscuit and salt pork and ammunition and carpenter's tools. Yeah, his ship was a lot more useful than that crashed 747. That said, when I read, I love that part. Like, oh yeah, ships could have useful things in them. That's important to know if you're a sixth grader stranded on a shipwreck. The thing that really struck me about this when I read it, and what I think the movie was promising to show, was that this really wasn't the first novel. People have tried to add on after the fact, like, oh, this is inspired by Buddhism or Sufism or various other philosophies about finding yourself and losing desire and freeing yourself from desire. But I think that's just kind of post hoc reasoning. When I read the book, it just seemed like one thing after another. There was no overarching story. It was just like, oh, here's a challenge, here's how he overcame it. Here's a challenge, here's how he overcame it. I think it was a promising step towards a novel with a structure and, rising action and a central conflict and a denouement and all that. But I don't think this book had that. So it was fun for me. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a great movie for Tony in 6th grade, and I think I'm going to enjoy finishing the movie because it promises to be about the same thing. But I don't think I'm going to get a true novel, a true story arc here. That's at least how I feel right now after having seen 8 minutes of the movie and having read the book several times. NT5TM.
And I think you guessed right, Tony. I don't think there won't be any surprises. I think you pretty much nailed it. Next up is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, what did you think about the plot for our movie Robinson Crusoe from 1954?
Okay, thanks, Tom. I did look up I think you did mention the publication date of this novel. It was 1719. That means this book is over 300 years old. So I try when I'm dealing with not only a book that's this old, but a movie that was made in the 50s. That's kind of an exponential need for objectivity. So I will not use a modern 21st century 2026 critical lens on this. It is of its time. It's actually a really good snapshot of the duality of the mentality of a guy like Robinson Crusoe. He was a privileged man who decided to lead a life at sea, and he even at upper echelon used to have servants and being waited on by the crew of whatever vessel he was serving on, probably as an officer of some kind for whatever trading company or military or whatever. That might have been mentioned at the beginning, and I don't remember what it was. So you have to kind of think, I kind of try to think of him from that perspective, and in that way, I do think there was a little bit of a character arc. He saved this guy from being eaten by cannibals. I don't know if the cannibals, I'm assuming that they were his own people. Maybe they were a faction that didn't like his family, and they dragged him and a couple other people off to an island to eat them as punishment or ritual. I don't know. We need to read the book to understand more why other people, whether it was, like I said, their enemies or a warring faction or whatever. They all appeared to be from, like, the same group of people, but anyway, he saw that this guy was escaping. He saved him. He was afraid of him because he knew that, he very well could. That was his culture, and he was aware that, hey, this guy's culture is that people might just drag him off and kill him, but he might do the same thing to some other person that he doesn't like. So this, I'm the guy who saved him, but I can't trust him. And so I think there was some trust. There was a little bit of a trust arc there, and by the end, he and Friday were friends. And even though they still had that caste or class kind of order based on Robinson Crusoe's mentality and the fact that he did have the upper hand with his technology and stuff. I think he came to trust this guy, and he became less of a slave and more of just like his right-hand man, which was kind of a, that was a cultural thing back then, to have sort of a guy or a valet or somebody who sort of was your like head person that took care of all your, all the little things in your life or whatever, and you'd end up being friends with that guy. And I think there was a real friendship and a bond, and I'm sure there have been lots of follow-ups and sequels and, stuff written like Friday Goes to England or whatever, and that might be kind of interesting. There was a little, it's so funny. There's so many of these classic things that are so ubiquitous, and we all know, like the reference, you could say Robinson Crusoe. It's even in the theme from Gilligan's Island, and everybody knows what it means. But I will admit to you that until yesterday, I had never seen a Robinson Crusoe adaptation movie, and I've never read the book. And so I thought it was interesting because it was a reference I knew, but I didn't know the story. And I thought it was interesting. It never got boring. It did have a lot of cool survival in it, and I was joking last night about how, since we I was joking about how the Martian ripped this off, and we were talking about Gilligan's Island a lot last night, and it's a good story. And then the movie Castaway, mentioned by Tony, that movie had, a little bit of a character arc when he was on the island, but he was literally all by himself. He didn't have any cannibals to worry about, but, and he had his imaginary friend, and Wilson, who was a volleyball, he wasn't a basketball. But anyway, that's a good psychological profile on what would happen, if you're left by yourself without anybody, not even goats. So I did think some of the things were convenient, like, there happened to be banana trees and coconut trees. There's goats everywhere. How did the goats get on the island? Some of it felt a little convenient toward the middle of the story. Maybe there was some kind of wild species of cat on the island that where the kittens came from. I don't know. That was funny. That was kind of a joke, sort of. It was like well, I never did figure out where those kittens came from. He actually says that in his narration. But I was interested. I hung with it, and it had a typical ending of a movie from that era where it was like all of us, just at the end everything got solved, and wrapped up nice and neat, and the end. But I kind of liked this. It was definitely a different flavor, and I think that he did change a little bit as far as how he regarded this guy that he had rescued and then come to trust, and that's an age-old story too. The sort of wayward, wayward people kind of bonding over their waywardness and becoming becoming friends. It's kind of an old story too that I liked this version of it. So I won't elaborate too much more. I want to give other people time to talk. So back to net NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. And you know what? I'm with you. I don't think I've seen another version of Robinson Crusoe. I've seen all the others, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but you made me think there. Okay, next up is Cecil, AC5VC. Cecil, you saw the film. What do you think? What did you think about the plot from KE5ICX?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised, not disappointed necessarily, but I expected it to be more about specific ways to survive and about survival. My wife and I watched it both this afternoon. She wanted to see about, since hadn't thought about that story in a while, and so she wanted to see it. Actually, it worked out well for us because I kind of have a tendency to doze anyway, and so she kept me awake for most of it, where it seemed to be a little slow. I couldn't help but think about some of the more modern versions of the story. There's a series called Alone that we've watched several times, and we watched one recently that was from Australia and New Zealand in that area. And I was amazed about the timeline on this one, that in being there 28 plus years, and the people in these series who are given certain supplies and specific ways and medicines to be able to survive in an alone situation. They make it about 70 days, even with the equipment. But I found the film to be more about control over someone else than about survival. And I was kind of surprised by that. That was not really what I was expecting him to be. I found it interesting that he was suddenly so resourceful. Virginia had pointed out, that he was kind of a privileged man. And all of a sudden he became quite capable of building quite a compound for himself and later for Friday. There was a part that I didn't understand. Maybe somebody will comment on it, about when he became ill and his father came to him in a dream and he said, "God will not forgive you." I don't know if I was dozing in that part or what, but I'm not too sure I understood what all of that was about. One other thing about the plot, I was interested when I was reading about this before we watched the movie, and the term Girl Friday actually was originated with the idea in this film and with Friday's name. And I thought about that in different terms. I was in the workforce early in the mid-60s, and it was a different world then, and the women were treated differently. And the fact that they coined that term Girl Friday brought to mind almost slave-like issues, which kind of was bothersome even at the time, and particularly these days. But that's about it as far as the plot. Is AC5VC back to Tom and net control?
All right, thank you, Cecil. Thank you. Good comments so far. Next up is Vance, KI5GGH. Vance, if you're still there, tell us, what did you think about the plot for our movie, Robinson Crusoe, from 1954? All right, are there any additional check-ins? Please come now.
Let us speak with W5FC.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this movie.
Okay, I had one breaking station, and I got Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, you came through loud and clear. The previous station, again, that may be Vance. I'm not sure. It could be a different station. Try again. I'm having a real tough time pulling you out.
That was Bill, W5BLT.
Oh, okay. Usually his signal is not always the strongest, but boy, I had a hard time. Okay, Bill, can you increase power possibly? W5BLT, try that and then go ahead with your comments. You're unusually rough into the repeater tonight, so give it a shot, please.
Hey, Tom, I'm going to try Echolink and see if that works. W5BLT, hopefully you could hear me okay. I was trying HT, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, just because I'm too lazy to get out of my chair and go to the ham shack. So I like the movie, but I loved the book as a kid. And as a fifth grade, fourth grade, whatever it was, when I read it, I just was enthralled about being on an island and trying to survive. And then I started down the path of, like, could I survive as a blind kid? So I don't know if I could have, anyway. But it was always fun to dream of that as a kid. The one thing I liked about the movie is it was narrated on some things that he was doing, and so I was able to follow it, and so I appreciated that fact of it. So I think that helped me, anyway, to kind of enjoy the movie, because I understood some of these movies. I don't understand always fully what was going on, but probably having read the book and then with our character narrating, it made it a lot easier. So I found it very enjoyable. And again, we're looking at this book from when it was written to the movie in the 50s, and I think now we've had movies so much, and we're saturated with so many entertainment outlets that going to the movies back then, that sometimes going to a movie theater was the only place you got air conditioning. So, or just maybe seeing it at a drive-in. So, I don't know. I just like this movie. W5BLT.
Yeah, I can see that being a challenge. It'd be difficult. Plus, I'm sure there's no real good narration on that film. There's a lot of space with no talking whatsoever. It's all visual, so it makes it particularly difficult. Bill, I got you good. I see you're over on Echolink now. You may want to dial back your mic a little bit. It's way over modulating, but I was able to understand you at least. So if you can dial that back a little bit on the next round, I think you'll have perfect signal for tonight. Sean, KB9SOK, you are next. Your thoughts on the plot for Robinson Crusoe from 1954.
Yeah, this is, excuse me, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, my thoughts don't really differ much than anybody else's on this. Yeah, I can't remember if I've seen this or not. It looked vaguely familiar. But I also think we watched a movie 2 to 3 years ago that actually had a very similar plot. And I can't remember the name of it. But it was definitely a different guy. But it was a similar situation where he was trapped and he had somebody and treated him like a slave and ultimately became his friend. I can't remember the name of the movie. But anyway, it had a lot of similarities. So yeah, for when this movie was written, it made sense. I could see where they were going. There was growth in this movie, obviously. The guy got past the whole idea of, treating this guy poorly and treating him like a friend and realized he'd much rather have a friend. My biggest problem with this movie is just what everybody else mentioned. It was kind of ridiculous. He had these infinite supplies at the beginning. He had that one skid that he somehow got from the ship that was pretty far away and managed to get all ashore safely. He seemed to have infinite food. He had grain. He had infinite bullets. He had enough bullets to last 30 years, so he could keep hunting animals. And then, the magical goats that appeared, and it was just kind of a little convenient. Didn't seem like a true struggle to where you had to see him to learn how to fish or, expand his knowledge. He just, it was easy breezy. He had all the supplies he needed for the most part. And the other problem I had with this movie is the first 2/3 of this movie was really just him running around, being depressed so much. And I realized this was kind of the focus and the purpose of the movie was to talk about solitude and how generally most people can't handle it for that long a time and how sometimes it can go crazy. Obviously, other movies have been mentioned that are similar. And that was kind of the focus until we got to where once we had the cannibals come on the island and the movie took a shift. This was kind of a weird one for me because it technically was a good movie, but personally, I just didn't like it. I got bored with it. I found it kind of, the first 2/3 was just so slow and not really anything that interesting happening. It just kind of bored me to death, if I'm being honest. So I was actually disappointed because, I know this is a famous movie, and I was actually kind of excited to watch it. Overall, it was just a little too slow for me, and I just kind of got bored with it. But anyway, as always, interesting to hear everybody's thoughts. Back to that, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean, and thank you for those comments. Anyone else want to join us before I make my comments for tonight's movie, Robinson Crusoe from 1954? Okay, hearing none. I'm going to go out on to something that Tony mentioned. He says it was one thing after another, almost like a police procedural of sorts, this one on survival. And that makes a lot of sense. A 300-year-old novel, I guess, could be written in a very matter-of-fact way like that, so why not, right? This story has inspired other stories and imitations throughout the years. Movie-wise, we've got Robinson Crusoe on Mars. We've got Life of Pi, Swiss Family Robinson, Lord of the Flies. I think I saw in here Google has named in here, or someone has 79 different films that have some sort of a castaway formula of survival and resourcefulness, as well as the psychological endurance against the elements. You name it, they've done it. And this is all based on really Daniel Defoe's classic tale. So I think that we've come to expect that, and we find it interesting. In fact, I think there is a movie that just recently came out and has since left theaters. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's about plane that goes down and in the jungle somewhere, and the guy has to survive, and he's the boss. So this story gets told and retold and retold. Well, why not, right? We did have Columbus's voyages on the second voyage. The ship the Santa Maria went down, and they created an outpost in Hispaniola, or the Dominican Republic. And nobody was left 3 years later, so except for some shrunken heads along the way that were found. It looked suspiciously like the crew that became part of that, because they had no way to bring them home because of the ships. The 3 small ships were unable to carry a full crew when the Santa Maria went down. So there's whole stories about that. We have stories about cannibalism and visiting other islands. We've got Mutiny on the Bounty as a story that had a lot of that. We had the Hawaiian Islands. Now we're getting into the Pacific on all of these, but I'm sure those stories were convoluted and added into the mix as well. So those adventure stories, how do people survive in the elements? How would you survive in the elements? Could you survive? So the intriguing part, I think, is that we all put ourselves into these situations and wonder, could we survive? I think the answer is pretty obvious. No, we wouldn't. We're too much in the civilized world. We would probably not be able to do the things that we would need to do. Post-apocalyptic films are the same way. How they are able to survive in those elements, the survival of the fittest and that. It continues to be a popular format. And in this case, I really enjoyed this movie overall. It was, I agree, a little slow in the way it was handled, but I think that probably fits with the story to a certain degree today, and there's been more modern versions that are more action-packed for the audiences that are out there. So we are not the audience, probably. I don't think too many of us were around in 1954, and if we were used to movies with intermissions. So having this story play out over a longer period of time, even though it's only an hour-and-a-half movie, probably was a walk in the park for most people. Today, I don't think the average person or theater goer who plunks down money would be able. There's just not enough action. But I enjoyed this version quite a bit. I wouldn't mind seeing a newer version. I think there's one from 1997. There's been several. I think there's even been a TV series, I think, based on it. I wouldn't mind seeing those and see how they play this stuff out. But overall, I thought it was enjoyable. I can see why it won the awards that it did. There was the scenes there with him playing both his father and himself, and as he's going nuts, which I thought was quite interesting. Loneliness will do that to you. And so the psychological part of it, I thought, was rather well done for 1954, for the type of film that it was meant for. This one was not for kids. Certainly we've had Disney-eyed versions of these things through the years. And this one was not that at all. It was definitely for adults. I don't think any kid could have sat through this and appreciated it. Overall, I can see why it's held up through the years as a film. Is it great filmmaking? No. But is it good filmmaking? Yeah, most definitely it is. I really enjoyed it. Now I'll go back and watch it again sometime. And some of the other iterations to compare and contrast. So those are my comments on that. Well, let's go ahead and move on to round two. Round two is about characterization. This may go pretty quickly since we got like half a dozen people in the entire film and one wrecked ship, sort of. So we'll start with that, with Bill N5BB. Bill, what did you think about characterization from KE5 ICX?
Oh, this is N5BB. There's really only 2 characters of any significance. Well, I would say there's 3. There is Robinson Crusoe, there's Friday, and who's essentially his slave. You got to remember, Robinson Crusoe was on a trip from Brazil to Africa to get slaves when his ship was shipwrecked. So anyway, and then you have whoever, don't know if he had a name, but the guy that was the captain of the European ship that was able to there was a mutiny, and Robinson Crusoe and Friday were able to help him get control of the ship again. But anyway, nearly all the characterization is Robinson Crusoe. That's the whole purpose, the whole thing, is his characterization. He's by himself. It's like Tom Hanks. Remember that movie when he's, what is it, UPS or FedEx pilot gets stuck on an island or something. So this was a morality tale, if you didn't figure it out. Robinson Crusoe himself was trying to, deal with his own morality and the morality of the cannibals and the morality of Friday, and he was trying to be a good Christian teacher of Friday, and all that kind of stuff. So this is a morality tale. And so Crusoe was very willing to willy-nilly kill people he considered bad guys, but he was also a few times not unnecessarily killing people he didn't have to. Like the Spanish guy, he tied him up in ropes rather than killing him. Crusoe, I don't know, how do we characterize it? He's kind of morose. He's stuck for such a long time away from people, especially his own kind, Europeans, Englishmen, and he's rather sad. And that's why, I didn't actively hate the film, but I didn't really like it. I was sad after watching this. Nothing happy in it. To me, it was all rather kind of depressing. What else can I say about characterization? Friday was supposed to be a native, stupid person that Robinson Crusoe could make a great person and teach him things. So that was the characterization there. The great European hero pulls out the savage from his savage ways. And so, it was, like I say, it was a morality tale. I guess that's all I've got on characterization. I thought it was rather simple, and like I say, it's a 300-year-old kind of morality tale. To give you an idea, this book came out about 10 years before Gulliver's Travels by Swift. 10 years before Gulliver's Travels, if you remember that old tale. N5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. Thanks for your comments. I'm looking through the 17 different films that actually are named Robinson Crusoe out of the 79 that are like Robinson Crusoe. I'm seeing a lot of patterns here. are almost rips from this particular film from 1954. I mean, scene to scene. I don't know. At any rate, let's go on. KI5JCM. Thomas, your comments on characterization from KE5ICX. Let me try again. KI5JCM. Thomas, you out there? You didn't fall asleep on us, did you? Well, that's one of the problems with starting a net at 10:30 at night is people drift away and fall asleep, including the net control, which is me. I've done that in my own net. Next up is Tony, NT5TM. Tony, your thoughts on characterization from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. I wanted to prove I was still awake, and I want to acknowledge the challenge from Virginia that there was more of an arc than I thought there was. And then I wanted to add my own note on characterization that my favorite novel from this era, roughly, is Tom Jones from 1757. Now, this was widely condemned as obscene, not because it contains explicit sex or violence, but because it contained explicit cynicism. Landlords are constantly trying to exploit their tenants. Innkeepers are trying to constantly cheat their tenants. Did I mention everyone is trying to constantly cheat their tenants? And Tom suffers some misfortunes, but is mainly trying to overcome his education and find true love. I think Tom Jones is the oldest publication I have read that has a very explicit character arc. But, in light of Virginia's comments, I am totally willing to reread Robinson Crusoe, because I could do that tomorrow, and see if I find a character arc in that. I appreciate the challenge. I think he's a potentially very interesting character, and I think it's time for me to go to bed. So I won't have anything for round 3. It's just really late, and I appreciate listening to everyone else's comments. NT5TM.
Comments. Next up is Virginia, NV5F. Same question to you. Characterization from KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you. Well, my challenge is only in regards to this movie in that I have not read the novel that it is based on. I do think the novel at that time was actually genuinely a novel, which, it was a newer thing, and I understand that some stories then probably didn't have a character arc. It was probably just exploring a series of events that happened, and there might even be a beginning, middle, and end, but not a character arc. We have actually so overanalyzed the idea of character arcs that people are almost paralyzed when they try to write stories now, and I won't go into that. That might be a topic for another net. I'm gonna, as I get into characterization, I'm not gonna really talk about acting because the acting was fine. There is a character in him in that he does have that experience hallucinating about his father and the guilt he feels for running off to go to sea and feeling, God hasn't forgiven him for something he did that he didn't even, can't even categorize as sinful or wrong. He just went and did the thing he wanted to do. And there's an interesting, movies in the 50s were much more openly Christian-based or favorable toward, the cultural Christianity of America and the West. And this did have an interesting spin on that because it openly showed cynicism in that Crusoe, one of the things he recovered from the ship was a Bible, and he was reading his Bible very fervently and faithfully, and over time he was so lonely and distraught and felt so wayward and bereft that he became rather jaded even towards scriptures, and he openly narrates about that. He's standing in the echoing valley yelling the 23rd Psalm and, not saying it reverently, just screaming it. And then Friday comes along and he does try to do as he's been taught, which is to, teach his culture. I don't think that he treated Friday like he was stupid. He actually treated him like he was quite cagey and resourceful, and he had to, consider him a possible worthy opponent, and I don't think he treated him as stupid at all. I think he treated him as someone who was to be respected. He was powerful and resourceful in his own way, and I did think the part where he's trying to teach, like to talk or ask him his name, he wasn't communicating very well, because the way you get someone's name from them is you point at yourself and you say your own name, and he never did manage to do that. So he wasn't a very good teacher. But I liked Friday's character. I thought he was from the get-go very likable, and I did like their friendship as it developed, and that they became companions and complimented each other. But I thought the little conversation they were having about God, where Friday was actually being pretty smart. The questions he was asking were very logical and intelligent. Why do you believe this? That doesn't make any sense. It's not very logical. And if God's more powerful than the devil, why doesn't he just kill him? And, just stuff like a really smart 8-year-old would ask about God. And I liked that aspect of it. I didn't find it, even this movie version of this, I didn't find that it was patronizing to Friday as what you maybe call like the trope of the noble savage or whatever. But I thought by the end they were really friends, and that they actually did have a friendship that would last a lifetime, and that it was born out of very unusual and adverse circumstances. And I liked their character development together and their trust of each other through. And yeah, this is very straightforward storytelling. It's more slow-paced, simpler. I like it. In fact, I'm going to push back on a couple other things. I think this is the kind of movie that a family would go see, and it's not a kids' movie, but it is a movie that you could take kids to see. And I watched movies that were much tougher than this when I was a kid. I probably would have liked this one if I'd seen it when I was a kid. It has the right amount of pathos and death and triumph and a little bit of the difficulty of the dichotomy of life, how dualistic life is. You're a privileged man, you're used to having a servant, you were going to get slaves, that's your culture, that's your lifestyle. Even in the 50s, that was like, wow, this is getting into some pretty, like old school stuff. The other thing I'm going to push back on is Tom saying that these movies are to prove that people couldn't survive. No, the whole reason we like these movies is because they prove to us that if we were in that situation, maybe we could make it. And that's how life feels sometimes. And I have lived as a single person for so much of my adult life that I am here to tell you, you do not have to be stranded on a desert island to struggle with isolation and even concern about your own rationality in regards to that. So I think this movie, yeah, it may not be like a masterpiece of filmmaking, but hey, he won like an Oscar for his performance. So imagine you're one of the people in the movie Back to the Future, and it's the fall of 1955, and the Oscars were last March, and the guy from the Robinson Crusoe movie is the guy who won Best Actor. So think of it that way. This movie was well regarded in its time, and I do think it was good. I liked it. I liked the acting. I liked the characters. Back to net in V5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. There's a lot to unpack there. Thanks, appreciate it. Next up is Cecil, AC5VC. Cecil, you got comments on characterization from KE5 ICX?
The main thing I can think of in this is that it's going to send me back to reading a novel. The problem I've always had with movies, no matter how well intended they are as far as the direction and how well they're written, or if there's enough action, or if there's too little, or whatever, it has to do with the length, it being an hour or so, hour and a half, 2 hours. And when you think about the book, there's got to be a lot more detail that was missing in the movie. So my next personal assignment is to go back and reread the book. I've read it before, but I'm going to go back and reread it to see what wasn't in the movie, or what was briefly skimmed over, to get a little bit more of a feel for the characters. They mentioned, I think Virginia mentioned the Valley of the Echoes, and that to me was telling, having watched recent depictions of being alone and what always goes wrong, and it's not so much the elements or the situation, it's the separation from someone that's close to you. So that was pretty well, I think, depicted there for Robinson Crusoe himself. The thing about the relationship between the two main characters, well, it was kind of a necessary thing. First he saved Friday, and then Friday saved him. And I kind of agree that Friday was not a stupid person. He was a deferential person, and he wanted to be more like Crusoe was in his ability to think things through and to get into discussions maybe about theology and things like that. So it was kind of interesting to see that interplay between them and see how successful or unsuccessful, I guess depending on your point of view, that Crusoe was in trying to teach him some things. He was not a great teacher, but again, the brief nature, relatively brief nature of the film compared to the book is something I want to explore. I think that's about it as far as characterizations. AC5VC, back to net.
All right, thank you, Cecil. Thanks for those comments. Next up is Bill, W5BLT. Bill, what do you got? This is a tough movie to watch, I think, for you. What are your comments on characterization from KE5 ICX?
Hey Tom, I'm going to try this. I tried to turn down the microphone because I panicked, and I did think about the fact that I switched headsets, and then I always have to go in and do the mic gain. Actually, I did kind of like the movie. I did speed it up because there were some parts that were slow, but there were parts that were narrated, and so for that helped me. I'm going to kind of repeat what I did before, because I think I was so much feedback that maybe it didn't work. And so I did kind of enjoy the narration piece of it, but yeah, there were some long parts in it, and there was a movie with Tom Hanks, and I can't think of the movie now. I think he was on an island, and now I can't. Castaway, maybe? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. That was horrible for me to watch. This was much better. I also loved the book as a 4th and 5th grade kid, and so that helped me. I did enjoy seeing the relationship develop between him and Friday, and of course, cannibals as a blind kid scared me, and so I probably won't have anything on the 3rd round. I just want to try to get back in with you guys since I've been absent so much this summer. And again, I always appreciate everybody filling in all the details. W5BLT.
All right, well, thank you, Bill, and we're glad to have you back. I always enjoy it when you're here, and we've got a good crowd here. We have a lot of fun doing these movies, and through the years, we've hit a lot of them. There's a couple hundred movies I think we've reviewed, or at least over 100. It's been more than that now I think about it. Okay, next up is KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on characterization from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I actually don't have a whole lot to add. I think everybody's covered it very well. You know, our main character, Crusoe, obviously had quite the growth. Started out, obviously as a privileged kid and had to learn how to do stuff himself. Never used a shovel or any of that. And then we had the personal growth, when he met Friday, and then obviously learned to trust him. And then, they got into deep conversation, as Virginia very well covered about all their different topics. So yeah, I think he did have a big growth in his journey. And then, Friday, I don't know that he had so much growth. He just, I guess he, was himself the whole time. And really, it was rare. I mean, yeah, we had a couple characters there at the end, but yeah, it was well acted. I mean, it was fine. Maybe we ought to give an award to the goats. Anyway. So yeah, that part, the characterization, I think was fine with this movie. Don't got a whole lot to add. Back to that, KB9SOK. All right, thank you, Sean. My comments on this one are, I think we all kind of lived through a little bit of this during COVID. If you're stuck at home and you were working, maybe you had family members, maybe you didn't. I didn't at the time, so I spent a lot of time by myself, and doing the stuff that I was doing was okay, but it was also kind of strange because it involved typically other people, and you needed them to be there in order to do the stuff that you did. And it got a little kind of crazy. I found projects and things to do to occupy my time when I had downtime, and I think we all did. We all have our stories from that. So we had all kind of experienced this firsthand to a certain degree, the isolation that can come about. Maybe not to the extent, but certainly everybody has in recent years had this experience. I think sometimes too, when you think about it, especially too with the electronics revolution that we've got,
the ability to be able to do everything remotely, it's not quite the same thing as having a person in the same room with you or discussing things in real time. You get body language, you get the feel of what's going on, you can observe things directly rather than somewhat indirectly through electronic devices or through the manipulation of those electronic devices. So I think that that's one of the mental aspects that do come out in this film, and I think it's one of the intriguing things that is part of this story that carries forward 300 years later, because it affects, this is very personal. This is something that people deal with from time to time or for a long time. I sometimes read stories about people who've been imprisoned, political prisoners or prisoners who have been in solitary confinement, and they go nuts. There's a reason for that. There's no stimulus. And unless you can find a way of escaping or creating your own stimulus, it can be a very dehumanizing and mentally destabilizing thing. And this story goes through that and suggests that in no uncertain terms. And the movie pulls no punches in that regard. And they do not treat it lightly for this type of a film in 1954. So I was impressed with it. I felt that it did what it needed to do. And I think it had enough of an impression that we could go forward. Is it a great film? No. It's a very good film, though, as I said in the last round. All right, with that, we're coming up towards sort of the top of the hour. So this is what I'm going to do, since we're running out of time. I'll go ahead and ask, this third round is technical, if you'd like, or anything that we may have missed or you want to comment on further. I'm just going to take call signs in the order that I receive them. So if you've got final comments to make, please come to your call sign now.
NV5S.
IDC5VC.
Okay, we got two. I got NV5S and AC5VC. So Virginia, you lead off from KE5 ICX.
Okay, it's kind of funny because I wasn't hearing any takers, and I recalled I knew there was something that I was thinking about in the last round that I wanted to talk about, and now I can't think what it was, and it might just be because I'm tired. But I didn't want there to just be nothing in the third round, so I wanted to try to think of something to say, and I will say that I think this is a popular theme for the reasons that you were talking about and that I was certainly talking about. COVID for me was more the same. I work at home. I depend on others to go out and go shopping and be around other people. I'm very dependent on other people for that. And so for me, COVID just felt kind of like a different version of what I'm used to. I was also starting online school at the time, so I had plenty to do. And I'm always working on projects here. I don't feel like I ever get hardly anything done, but I guess I do. Anyway, I enjoyed this movie to a certain degree. I don't know if it's one I'll want to go back and watch over and over, but I do think that it did have a character, arc of some kind, but at the same time, I don't remember what I was thinking. And I haven't read the novel, but I'm guessing the novel probably has this feel to it. And a lot of these kind of movies did. the story itself feels episodic. It's like each section of the story is one subject and then it just moves to the next subject. But it did feel like they were trying to put in the overarching thing, you know, with his delirium and his, you know, his dream about his father and the stuff about God. So I think there was at least an attempt there. Like I said, I can't speak for the book itself because I haven't read it, so it might be worth it for me to get it and read it, and then to maybe become more literate in the novels of those that time. And one more thing, I don't know if it's on the list of movies, and it's not really necessarily, and that movie, Tom Hanks, that is Castaway. I think 3 different people mentioned it, and we're like, I'm not sure what this movie is. It is Castaway. I think it's a good movie, but I don't watch it very often because it is difficult emotionally. Just the whole movie is so sad. So I just can't watch it very often. Anyway, Project Hail Mary has a couple elements that are present in this. You know, lots of the Andy Weir style competency type movies. You know, where it's all about figuring things out. And there's even a meeting of 2 very different people who figure out how to trust each other and how to help each other out, complement each other, and become friends. So I'll leave it at that. That theme of growing companionship from adversity is a very strong theme, and so is the theme of just being alone, and how we all sort of feel that sometimes. So anyway, that's it for me. Back to net in V5M.
All right, thank you, Virginia. Thanks for those comments. Appreciate it. Last but not least, this evening is Cecil, AC5VC. Cecil, your final comments.
I only have a couple, I think. The technical aspects of the film are kind of surprising for 1954. I thought it was very good as far as the quality of the film and the color work. This was pre-Technicolor times, I think. And I thought that was pretty good. When you compare some of the other films that maybe have been reviewed here, they were not quite up to par on as this one was. And the last thing I wanted to say was about the movie overall, I think, and the novel in particular, is about the human predicament. And I think the movie was trying desperately to show us how to survive, you know, whether that's being alone or being in a situation where physical survival, you know, and protection from the elements and from threats is a problem. It taught us, or was trying to teach us how to be patient with someone that maybe is not at your level of understanding. It tried to teach us, I think, how to be fair, and probably lastly, it tried to teach us how to be friends. Does it really succeed in all of that? Yeah, I think probably, again, for its time, it does. It could have done maybe a better job.
Elvis has left the building.
So I think that has a lot to do with it. AC5VC, back to net.
All right, thank you, Cecil. I was trying to, you mentioned the color. It was Pathé color, but I've got mixed things on that. There's a technique called path color, which is a cut paste of individual black and white. That's certainly not this. The other is a copyrighted type. I don't know what the difference is. I found the color kind of weird to me somehow. It seemed off slightly, but I'm not sure. At any rate, it's neither here nor there. Okay, well, what's next week's movie? Are you ready for this? Here it is. This is off of Tubi. This has been on the list for a while, but it's still available. I just checked it. This one is called Relax. I'm from the future, from 2022. It's an hour and a half long, so it's not too long. Time travel movie. Well, one guy's time travel movie. Everybody else is living in the present. So there you have it. The guy from the future. Relax. I'm from the future. That'll be next week's movie. I'll send out the info for you. If anybody who's listening that doesn't have access to the movie information ahead of time, just to send me an email at my call sign, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-ray, KE5ICX @yahoo.com, and say, put me on the list. I'll put you on the list and give you all the contact info. So until next time, this is KE5ICX, and I say 7-3 to everybody. Good discussion tonight. I really enjoyed it. We'll do this again next week. Bye-bye.